everyone. Welcome into episode 160. 160. Holy cow. What? That's a lot of episodes. I'm Nick Hill, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee of the United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil is Gus Tomazeli. And Gus, we have arrived. We have been waiting on this moment, frankly, since it feels like the beginning of this podcast. The 12-team expanded playoff is upon us.
Oh my God, it feels surreal that it's gonna be in like 3 days. Practically 2 days.
Yep, 2
Because
days.
2 days. Yeah, I'm doing good, Dick. Doing good. I, I want to jump straight to to our first topic, which is this insanely amazing first round of playoffs this weekend, and definitely I want to start with the game that all Tennessee Vol fans. I'm been a Vol fan, I'll be honest, since 2015. You, I guess, since the early 2000s. But people that have been Tennessee Vol fans for like decades waited for this moment. I guess for like 2 decades at least.
Right.
For this moment, and it's crazy that I guess Tennessee now has not only one but two Neyland stadiums.
Apparently, we have more than one because there's folks, I'm just telling you, there's going to be a lot of orange in Columbus, Ohio on Saturday. And Jason, Mark, and I are going to be two of them because it's going to be a Vol Nation takeover in Columbus. I mean, it's going to be absolutely insane. And yeah, let's kind of talk about, before we get into the game itself, just the off-the-field antics, because I think we know just how weird of a setup for this game that we have, because you have two programs in very different places here. Let's start with Ohio State. Obviously, the last time we saw the Buckeyes, they lost to Michigan for the fourth straight year in a row. And this is in a year where Ohio State was the preseason number one team in the country, had spent over $20 million on their roster, was expected to win the Big Ten, and they didn't even make the Big Ten championship game because they lost at Oregon, and granted, Oregon's number one undefeated. You can forgive that. But then losing at home to an unranked 7-5 Michigan team for the fourth year in a row, especially when you were attempting to play like Michigan and try to out-physical them, and it didn't work. Safe to say the psyche of Ohio State fans and perhaps the whole football program is broken. At least it seemed broken in the wake of that game, considering the fracas with the flag planting, and state representatives trying to ban and make it a felony. Clearly, Ohio State fans have been going through it since that loss. But someone should probably tell them they have a playoff game in 3 days.
I guess Tennessee can take both ways. One way is that Ohio State probably is still like feeling and like the bad taste of the Michigan loss, and I guess having to take advantage of that in the best way possible is. But that's something Tennessee kind of struggled throughout the season, is to score in the first quarter. I think the first quarter is going to set up the entire game. If Tennessee comes out strong and maybe have a 2 or even 3, but I guess 2 touchdown lead going to the first quarter, Ohio State fans are not going to be all supportive. No, they're going to be booing. All their patience, all their support, they ran out on late November game against Michigan because, as you point out perfectly, losing to the number one team in the country now, Oregon, in a close match, fine. It happens, it's college football. But losing to a Michigan team that literally struggled the whole year to offensively, and instead of trying to push their defense and, no, they're trying to, like you said, out-physical them, and even worse, losing at home to a hangover Michigan team that now is gonna go to the Citrus Bowl with no pressure. We did what we should do this season, which is beat Ohio State, and Ohio State the opposite is gonna. I mean, I think if being honest, Ohio State fans would rather go on the road than hosting a playoff game because of all this mantra, all this bad taste that happened in the game against Michigan.
Yeah, I think as Kirk Herbstreit said it right after the playoff selection, it might be better for Ohio State to leave the horseshoe in this case because you said if Ohio State trails in this game, I don't know how patient this fan base is going to be. I mean, it's going to be a cold one out there. It's going to be in the 20s, of course. As they say, Tennesseans are just going to freeze to death. We don't know how to deal with cold weather. But if you're Ohio, if you're an Ohio fan and you're out there in the cold weather and you have just lost all patience because you think your team should just be that much better than every other team in the country, and it isn't, well, how much patience are you going to have? Because, like, and I'll just tell you, like, from my perspective, as a Tennessee fan, like, I am elated to be in this position. Yeah, we didn't beat Georgia again. We're not in the SEC title. But, as you said, I've been watching every game since 2006. And more often than not, we were struggling to make a bowl game. We weren't coming close to Alabama, Florida, or Georgia. We were just...
I think the point was, for example, literally a decade ago, Tennessee was happy, more than happy, to go to the Tech Sawyer Bowl in Florida. That was something Tennessee was kind of feeling good about it. And now look what happened 10 years later.
Like, I remember 2019 being a ban because 2017, 2018, we didn't go to a bowl game, so I thought it was amazing just to go to that Gator Bowl in 2019. And look at this. Now, granted, it's gonna be a lot colder than Jacksonville, but just being in this position, knowing that we are a game away. If we win this game, guys, we are going to the Rose Bowl. To the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's just insane. And I know Jason and I, like, for me, like, I don't care what that scoreboard says. I mean, I'm going to yell the entire night.
And I think that's the mentality that Tennessee fans are going to this game. I don't think if, for example, the result goes to Ohio State, Tennessee fans are going to feel disappointed. They're going to feel proud of this team. But I feel like, Tennessee playing with house money. And shout out my friend, and was his birthday yesterday, Real Bronco fan, Wilmerson Rodolfo Campos, saying Real Bronco. He's a big fan of Real Bronco. We're going to talk about Real Bronco way later in the show. And Jason pointed out something that's true. It's going to be cold, but I have some warm clothes. I mean, that's what I say even before the show. Like, wear all your orange layers.
Exactly.
I mean, Tennessee fans have so many gear and clothing orange. So, I mean, put all the layers you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I've never seen cold weather before, so I'll be fine. Thanks to all the folks in Ohio, though, for their concern. I'm sure they're very genuine concern about the Southerners' ability to deal with cold weather. But kind of circling back, though, on the mantra here and the mentality, I think you're completely right. For Tennessee, we should feel no pressure at all heading into this football game at all. We should go out, be firing, be free. And because Ohio State knows that losing this would be a catastrophe. Because remember, they were 10-1 heading into Michigan. All they had to do was win that game, go to the Big Ten, and they could have automatically been in the Rose Bowl already. Instead, they lose, as you said, they lost that game, and now they're here playing Tennessee, and a fan base that's frankly gonna be heavily represented in their stadium.
And even more, compare how the coaches are getting to this game. Josh Heupel, feeling proud of all the rebuild. Like, compare both coaches. Ryan Day inherited a really good program. Heupel inherited a mess. So, of course, one fan base is going to be all the pressure of, hey, you couldn't keep up with the success that you inherited. And the other fan base, like, we are proud of what you accomplished because we know the mess that you inherited. Look, I use the word inherited in two different ways for two different coaches getting to this game.
Exactly. Exactly. And as I said, like, I mean, Heupel's an A plus 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 plus. So, you know, because I saw some Vols fans throughout the year when we were struggling on 7 games, saying like, "Oh, I'm starting to not believe in Heupel anymore." And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like,
I
I
I guess those people should watch some reruns of Derek Dooley and Butch Jones games. They should be punished of you watch some reruns of the Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, and Jamie Pruitt games.
just make them watch the Georgia State game of 2019 on a loop. Make them watch 2018 Charlotte's on a
Oh
loop.
my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I was in that game. I mean, it was the worst win of Tennessee football history. Like, it was the win that felt most joyless.
Well, we did beat UAB in 2008 in overtime, so there was that. That was a pretty joyless win. Or was it 2010? We beat them in overtime in 2010, but I guess it's better than a loss. Yeah, as you said, the mentality is just so different here, and I am so pumped for this game. Like I said, well, regardless of how this thing goes, I mean, it's awesome to be here in the conversation, to be in this position, especially here in year one. And Rafael Fernando is comparing you to Vinny Jr., the
No,
best.
Rafa. No, you're the best, Rafa. You're the best soccer analyst. No, he is. And we're gonna talk about your Eagles later because I probably he is feeling all proud of his Philadelphia Eagles. But I told him that Saturday, we're I mean, we're not gonna have our preseason games on Sunday. So on Saturday, I told Rafael, sit back and enjoy college football playoff because I know a lot of people don't watch college football in Brazil. They focus on the NFL, but if you give an opportunity, you guys gonna fall in love. I mean, Saturday cannot get any better than college football first round playoffs on
Absolutely. And it
college
starts
camp.
Friday. But we'll get to the rest of those games here. Yeah, but definitely from the emotional standpoint, it's just how big this thing is for Tennessee. And I mean, I could only imagine being Ryan Day heading into this game. The pressure he must be feeling. Because to me, it feels like the only way he could win back the fan base is winning a national championship.
I think he's the only coach. The probably maybe Dan Lanning, but he is the coach probably in this playoff that is a lot of championship or bust. There's no other coach, not Marcus Freeman, no, definitely
James
not
Franklin.
because Dan Lanning and James Franklin. I guess you can say they very are pressure because one, James Franklin lack big game winning, and Dan Lanning is the kind of coach that have a lot of regular season success, but kind of you know did not accomplish still a big like win, especially in the playoffs. But Ryan Day had that opportunity multiple times. Unlike Franklin and Lanning, he has been in this situation before and failed multiple times. I mean, granted, he won the college football playoff semifinals when he was underdog against Clemson, but then he was like destroyed by Alabama in the national title.
Right, and he had Justin Fields, and he had a really talented team. I mean, his best performance in the playoffs, arguably, was the loss in 2022 to Georgia, because that arguably is like the best performance he's ever had. Was that game against Georgia? Because they should have won that game.
Yeah, that was the peak of his coaching era. Even though he lost, because he lost to a team that was the starting of a some sort of a dynasty because Georgia and Georgia can still come back and win it again. So if they won, it would be like 3 out of 4. So there will be still can be considered the dynasty. But
Right. I mean, that's one of the greatest college football games ever played. That 2022 Ohio State Georgia game. The
That
amount of talent.
that ending of that game was magical. I mean, I think it was the most magical ending of a sports game ever. The kick, that field goal kick on the strength of a midnight in the New Year's the Eve.
Yeah, and like, yeah, at the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was very upset about it because it kind of felt like Tennessee had its best year in 15 years, and I still got to watch Georgia win a national championship. But you know, it is what it is. I've gotten over it at this point, and I can appreciate that game for what it was and an all-time classic. But yeah, for tennis, and all right, and Jason is saying Day has regressed as his players have cycled in, and Urban Meyer's players have cycled out. Correct.
Yeah,
Urban Meyer was a goated recruiter.
yeah. I guess that's a good point Jason makes, because it's true. Because I mean, that's why I point out the word inherited. Right? They inherit such a foundation of a program that fans expected that success to keep it happening. And Hype, on the other hand, I think I don't remember a coach inheriting such a mass program as Hype inherited in Tennessee in a long. I mean, maybe SMU's coach in the '90s.
SMU in the 90s.
Yeah, when they come back from the death penalty.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm definitely want to talk about them here in a second because obviously it's just insane to see their name here in the playoffs as an at-large team. Let's talk a bit about the matchup here and what we think is important. And we've talked about the importance of starting fast between Tennessee and Ohio State, but the quarterback matchup here is super fascinating, right? You got Nico Iamaleava. He's now a full year in as a starter. We saw his beginnings last year, Orlando, and now we're going to see how far he's come in a year. Going to Columbus against a really, really talented Ohio State defense. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got Will Howard, a transfer from Kansas State, who has been okay. I would say 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, but I don't think he has been amazing, considering it, especially when you have talent like Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Buga on the outside. Frankly, his performance just has not been good enough, especially when you look at the performance against Michigan. And to be fair, I don't blame him completely for that loss because, again, the biggest issue there was Ryan Day's insistence on trying to beat Michigan at their own game instead of trying to air it out some. And that's the area that, to an extent, concerns me here, at least from Tennessee winning perspective. Because if you look at the two games we lost here were by far the two best quarterback performances that were against us. Arkansas's quarterback, Taylon Green, had a great game against Tennessee. I know they only threw up 19 points, but they really probably should have had about 30 to 40 in that game. I mean, we just got lucky, caught some bricks with some turnovers and some missed field goals at Arkansas. And then Georgia, Carson Beck had the game of his season against Tennessee that night, especially throwing to Oscar Delp and just tore us apart. And the thing that, when you look back at the Georgia game, we couldn't get any pressure with the front four. And we curiously really didn't bring more pressure beyond then. So when you look at Ohio State's offensive line heading into this game, there are multiple injuries on that front line. There are vulnerabilities there. Tennessee's front seven has been the cornerstone of this team throughout this entire season, and we're going to need them to deliver, to get after Will Howard, who is mobile. He's not the fastest guy on the road, but he is mobile. We need the D-line to get to him, to pressure him, because as we've talked about, this team already feels a lot of pressure. Make him feel the heat of this defensive line.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the keys of this game is definitely pressure the D line, and especially Tennessee has to control the game with the beginning and put the crowd against the team, put the Ohio State crowd against their own team, and I mean, I feel like the quarterback matchup has Tennessee favor, but that's the game Nico has to prove that he was worth all the hype. And so far, it's not that he played badly in big games, but he kind of struggles in a way that he kind of shrink a little bit, especially, for
Well,
example,
I will say when it comes to Nico as well, the receiver. So what some of these receivers too have to step up, and you're going to see, I think, a lot of Mike Matthews in this game. You're going to see some Braylon Staley in this game. You're going to see some of the younger guys here, and I think, and hopefully, we can find some explosiveness because, as I said, Ohio State has so much talent on that team. Caleb Downs in the secondary, you got Jack Sawyer up front for them. I mean, like, I don't think that Tennessee's going to walk into Ohio State and score 50 points because they're not. Like, Ohio State
no,
is
no.
going to be way too talented for that. But the game you should expect here is a low score and slugfest from both sides. I think Ohio State's going to struggle. I don't think they're going to run the ball effectively, even though they have Quinshawn Junkins and Travion Henderson. I mean, they've got two very talented running backs, but our rush defense is really good. And their offensive line is injured. So I think they're going to struggle running the ball. It's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Can Will Howard make some big plays? And he's got the receivers to do it. But Will Howard, will have to deliver in this game. And on the other end, can our receivers help Nico out? Get some big ones. Avoid some drops. That's what it's going to come down to, and how these offenses handle the elements. And obviously, you can't go talking about Tennessee's offense without talking about Dylan Sampson. And in a cold weather game like this, often what you see is these games favor the teams that can run the ball and stop the run. And hopefully Tennessee, to me, seems like the team that could benefit in a cold weather game because we've got Dylan Sampson. We've got some talent behind him to really try to hammer away at Ohio State and to loosen them up a bit.
And definitely you see it definitely Tennessee is gonna watch a lot of film on the Michigan Ohio State game, because that was, if there was some sort of a key of how to be the Buckeyes, Michigan exposed them.
Also, special teams is going to be so huge here because Jake Filden, the Ohio State kicker, missed 2 kicks of under 35 yards against Michigan as well. Where is his mindset? Jason could come on here and tell us all about the mindset of kickers because he's coached special teams and how easily the mind of a kicker can be just completely shattered. We looked at Max Gilbert. He had some struggles throughout this year, but in the past couple of games, he has played very, very well. I trust our kicker here more than I trust their kicker, to say the least. Return games. Can any of our returns, what team gets a good return in this game? That could be a huge difference. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of little things. And I think ultimately it comes down to mindset. How does Ryan Day approach this game? Is he going to air it out more? How does Heupel approach this game? Is he going to let Nico do what he's going to need to do? Is he going to let him run? Because you could tell in the Vandy game, they let Nico run a lot more because they've been trying to not run him as much to protect him, to try to not get him injured, right? Because, Gaston Moore, I like Gaston, but you're probably not going very far in the playoffs with Gaston Moore. No disrespect to the GOAT backup. But to me here, training wheels are off. If Nico's got to run 20 times for us to win, Nico's got to run 20 times. You're now at the point where we got to do what we got to do to get the dub here in Columbus.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, that's the kind of game that both teams, they know what each other are. Tennessee knows what they're good of. They knows what they need to work on. Same for Ohio State. And I'm gonna already predict my result. I think it's gonna be Tennessee 20, Ohio State 14.
Ooh, for my pick here. The more and more I look at this game, the more and more I just like Tennessee here to get it done. I think our mindset's going to be better here. I think we're going to be better up front. And we're going to control the lines of scrimmage. And I think Nico is going to show why he was a 5-star. Give me Vols 23, Ohio State 17. So, yeah, go Big Orange. I look forward to freezing my butt off in Columbus for the Big Orange. Now, there's not the only game, as you mentioned. There are 3 other college football playoff games starting on Friday night in the great state of Indiana. Indiana at Notre Dame. A Hoosier showdown. Hoosier hysteria on the gridiron. Very interesting game. Of course, Indiana, the upstart team this year with Kirk Siganen in his first year, came out of nowhere to make the playoffs at 11-1. And then Notre Dame, of course, we know they suffered a devastating loss early to Northern Illinois, but have bounced back and made it all the way back to the playoffs at 11-1. What do you think about this one? Here, Jason, what is up?
I heard let's talk about kickers, so I figured I'd get into the light real quick. I'm not feeling great. I got a migraine tonight, but I figured I'd hop in and talk kickers for a couple minutes if you guys still want to.
Absolutely,
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah. Because I referenced you because you know all about kickers, and I think with as close of a game as I think this is going to be, Max Gilbert versus Jake Fielding is going to be big, and both of these kickers have had struggles throughout this year. Fielding most recently missing just 2 awful kicks against Michigan that frankly cost his team the game.
Look, if I can go out and kick those field goals right now, you're in trouble, and I can. And so, my thing with that is, where is his head at? The pressure is squarely on him, and kickers have to be a different breed. You have to be able to just forget your struggles and keep moving. And Max Gilbert showed a little bit of that this year with his struggles that he had in a couple of games. And you and I had this discussion, and Gus, I think you were probably involved as well. I said that it's really important to get him back going. And I said it was a blessing that our next game was against Mississippi State. The reason being is he can go out there and he can miss a kick and not cost us against Mississippi State. It's not like playing against Georgia where every point is so precious. With respect to Mississippi State, they're just not where they need to be this year. And with that said, it was a blessing that that we had Mississippi State next, because Gilbert was able to go out there and just kick through it. The number one thing that a kicker needs when they're struggling is just to see it go through the upright and be able to exhale. And with Max Gilbert, what we saw in 2 straight games was he was missing kicks that we know he can make. And people were talking about benching him, and people were talking about he can't continue to cost Tennessee points. And I agree with that to an extent. However, it's also very important to let him get through that and not just bench him, because you could ruin his career that way. Kickers have some mental struggles like that. When they start missing, you can snowball that into a much bigger issue than it needs to be by benching somebody. And that's why it was so important that we had Mississippi State next. And so he was able to go out there and kick through it. But benching a kicker is the worst thing you can do for their confidence. And I think kicking is 90% a confidence game, because with enough training, anybody on that field can go out there and kick a 35-yard field goal. Give anybody, any D1 football player, a week, and they can hit that field goal if they work on it for a week. Now, what separates kickers from everybody else is they have to be mentally strong, because the focus is squarely on them, and they have literally one job. And so, whereas, a quarterback, sure, the quarterback can throw an interception and come back from it, or a running back can fumble. We've seen it with Dylan Sampson. We've seen the interceptions with Nico Yamaleava. But a kicker has one job. And if they don't do that job, it's very quickly, it's very cutthroat, and you can very quickly lose that job. And you see it in the NFL every week. We joke, one guy misses a kick. Okay, well, he's getting cut tomorrow. And so kickers just have to be a different level of mentally prepared. And with this kid from Ohio State, he's been missing kicks, and he's had not only a couple of kicks that he missed, he's had multiple weeks to think about it. He's had multiple weeks of not being able to get back out there and see another one go up through the uprights. And so if you can get to him early, you can get him in a position where he's going out there. First kick of the game is going to be, maybe it's from a hash, or maybe it's from a little bit farther than he would like. It's off center, something. If you can get something, maybe, just maybe, he'll push it wide right, or he'll hook it left. And if he hooks one to start, it's over.
And I went to, so Ryan Day apparently today in his press conference said that the starting kicking position might be open this week because he's also considering a senior kicker.
I didn't know that. That's a terrible thing to say to your kicker going into the biggest game of the season. That's horrible.
Yeah, because apparently he's thinking about putting in a senior kicker who's only attempted and made 3 extra points all year.
Those are things that you keep to yourself. You can tell that Ryan Day has never been involved with special teams by how he handles that. And the best coaches that know how to deal with special teams think that, but don't say it. You want your kicker to feel that you have faith in them. And it's the same thing I said with Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. That's a terrible idea to go out and say, we're holding open tryouts, because you're going to ruin every kicker on that roster. And he did.
Oh, Gus, you're muted.
I guess I have to start some sort of a course on how to talk in sports press conference. Because if I was Ryan Day, what I would, if somebody asked me about my kicker, I would have been like, I trust him. I trust my player. I trust my players. They are family, and going to this game, I'm gonna give him 100% my effort to make sure that he's ready. Like, just say that, and you'll be fine. You don't have to uh, tell those things that the media wants to hear. Like, you're giving the media what they want, but you're being counterproductive to your own players.
Like, this is what he said verbatim. Quote, "Today in practice is our field goal day, so those guys will get in there and practice. We'll see how today goes, but we'll see how the rest of the week goes, and then we'll make a decision at the end of the week how we want to enter the game. Not that that's any different than any other week, but we'll certainly be taking a hard look at how it goes today." That's not just any other week. It's do or die.
He caught himself, though. He caught himself, and you can tell he caught himself because he stopped in the middle of a thought and said, "Not that it's any different from any other week." And he knew he had misspoken as soon as he corrected himself with that. And then he went on and continued the thought, because you can't just stop like that. You're already knee deep in shit saying that. And what Gus said is absolutely correct. All you have to do is go out there and say, "I trust our guys. I've been there in practice. You haven't. We're fine." And if it comes back that, your kicker misses, you make the decision when the time comes. You don't need to undermine what he's doing before he goes out there and does it. The pressure's already on him. He doesn't need it from you as well. And I think that plays greatly into Tennessee's favor. Because, like I said, if you can get that guy out there on a field goal that's maybe a little bit longer distance, maybe it's on a hash, maybe the angle sucks, whatever. If you can get him out there in an uncomfortable position and you can get him rattled and he misses, that's big, because he's done. If he's not getting pulled out of the game, mentally he's done anyway, and he'll probably miss again. But if you go out there and you say, "Oh, I don't know what his name is, but, this kid," if you say, "I have full faith in him, we'll be fine. He's been fine at practice. He's just got to go out there and see the ball go through the upright. We're fine." And then you go and get him a field goal that's, 30 yards from the middle of the field, and he sees it go through, which is exactly what we saw with Max Gilbert against Mississippi State. If you can get a guy out there to do that, you're fine. And half of the battle of being a head coach is just knowing your guys. And, if this kicker, responds to feeling his ass get hot, then okay, fine. Most kickers don't react that way, though. Most kickers just want some encouragement and want to be able to fade back into obscurity. If you hear about the kicker, it's either that they won a game or they lost the game. You don't usually hear about them otherwise. And a lot of kickers, with very minimal exceptions, Pat McAfee being one, except for a guy like that, you don't really hear from kickers. And you don't hear about them unless they have done something that directly affects the outcome of the game, good or bad. And so you just, I think it's really counterproductive to go out there and say that. And I think he knew that too, but I think he put his foot in his mouth too quickly, Gus. I think you're exactly right with what you were saying. And then to Nick, what you were saying, the verbatim quote tells it all.
Absolutely. And also, Ryan Day also said today that he's not definitive about who will start an offensive guard. He is talking about rotating two different guys at left guard and rotating a third guy between the two guard positions. So that's also pretty interesting to me as well.
Sure, but that's understandable though. You've got to be able to rotate when you're trying to put a Band-Aid over an injury like that. It's not like you just don't have faith in somebody. Respectfully, I think that's completely different. And I don't mind what Ryan Day said about that, personally.
Right, but it's definitely just interesting because, Ryan Day from the outside, he seems like a micromanager. Like an absolute micromanager. I mean, that's why he decided to, approach the Michigan game the way he did. It was his way or the highway, and the highway won.
And I think that's a big reason why he has not found a whole lot of success as a head coach outside of the regular season. And sure, he's got an incredible regular season record. He's only lost just a handful of games, and they're all to Michigan. But with that said, the best coaches know how to trust people, and they trust themselves to hire people that they can trust. When I won a state championship coaching football, at the high school level, my head coach trusted all of us to do our jobs, and he managed his one thing. He calls the offense. He's a lot like Josh Heupel in that respect. It's his offense. He calls the offense. But in terms of defense, he trusts his coordinator. In terms of kicking, he trusted me. And I remember in 2022, I had a kicker who I trusted him greatly, and I knew his tendencies and stuff. And coach would come to me and ask, okay, can we hit this, or should we punt, or should we go for it? And so anywhere in no man's land on fourth down, I was making the play call, and I don't have a ring for nothing. And when you say micromanaging, it's really easy to forget how detrimental that can be at a football team. And kicking is a microcosm of that. Special teams is a microcosm of that. But it truly, if you are a micromanager, which I tend to agree that Ryan Day is, you're going to have a whole lot of problems, because if you're constantly interfering in everybody's work, nobody's work's getting done properly, including yours.
Absolutely. I think that's why it's so imperative for us and everyone else that's heading to Columbus wearing orange to be just as loud as we possibly can. Because I think we're going to be able to have an impact, even though despite this being on the road, because it just seems like there's going to be, at bare minimum, at least 20,000 ball fans up there. There could be
even
more
if the impact is just, the guys running out on the field for warm-up seeing, okay, there's a lot of orange in the stands, that's getting everybody motivated too. Even if it's not an overwhelming majority of orange, just having a lot of people there, our people traveled. Vols fans are crazy. They're out here braving this cold. Let's go win this for them.
Well, look, this is the thing, though. This is the cheapest cheapest ticket I've seen for a Vols game all year.
Easily.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to go if this were Neyland. I mean, it blows my mind just how out Ohio State fans are right now.
Hey, use that to the advantage. All you got to do is go in there and punch them in the mouth early, and their fans will turn on Ryan Day and on their team. And that's how you take somebody out of a game. But, boys, thank you so much for letting me crash it and talk about kickers for a few minutes. You guys know I love nothing more than to talk a little special teams. So take care of yourselves. I'm going back to bed. I'll talk to y'all later.
Absolutely. See you in a few days.
See you in a few days, Nick.
Absolutely. That is Jason Ware. If we're going to be in Columbus, Ohio for Tennessee Ohio State, we'll have to do some content up there for sure from the Horseshoe. Wow, you are muted.
Please send videos so I can put on our Gus Nadia and Two Countries to America's Instagram pod. So definitely there's going to be a lot of content, and I cannot wait for this game. I cannot wait for this game. I cannot wait for this game, and it's going to be a very crazy atmosphere. I feel like also Tennessee is going to be uh, feeling less pressure than Ohio State. Just real quick, I want to give a big shout out. I'm gonna give a big shout out to Carla Foschini, watching us in Sao Paulo, capital. Big shout out as well to let me check here, to Erica as well. Let's see, some folks also. Claudio Brito, shout out Claudio Brito, my friend, commentator for Radio Brazil in Santa Barbara. Oteilton Mizoni, a big Rio Branco fan. Marcelo Di Sena, radio personality. Thanks so much for watching the episode 160 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. And just to wrap up, I think Tennessee, for me, as I predicted, is going to win. And Nick as well said Tennessee is going to win. And this game, I feel, is going to be one of the most important games of Tennessee, at least in this 21st century. This 21st century, that's the biggest game of Tennessee football. No doubt about it. Definitely, you can say, oh, the 1998 national championship, that was important, definitely. But this century, this 21st century, this is the game for Tennessee football. Not only how crazy Tennessee took to get here from January 2021 to December 2024. What a journey from a program that was destroyed to a program that is on the top of college football today. That's impressive. That's impressive. And definitely cannot wait for this game. 10 p.m. Brazil time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. College game day is going to be there as well. So I think probably that's probably going to get the biggest ratings of the weekend in terms of college football. And I think it's going to be, I just hope fans, both Tennessee and Ohio State fans, behave, and because the atmosphere definitely going to be electric, but it's going to be, as we point out, a lot of Tennessee fans in a hostile environment, and that can be tricky. That can be a little bit dangerous. Not as dangerous as, for example, be in Brazil or in Europe, but definitely it's going to be an insane environment. Definitely, but can't wait for Tennessee and Ohio State to play in the Horseshoe. That I've been to the Horseshoe back in the summer of 2016 to watch Real Madrid and PSG play. It feels like forever. 8 years ago, I was there in the Horseshoe. Granted, I could have gone to an Ohio State football game. I had credentials for the game against Indiana, of all teams, but I couldn't go because I had to cover Mexico and New Zealand in Nissan Stadium. But when I went to watch Real Madrid and PSG at Ohio State Stadium, was a very good moment. And Nick, anything else you want to add up to this really big game?
Right. Well, I was listening to you say that you've been to the Horseshoe. Was it a good stadium? What would be your advice about Columbus, Ohio?
I went in the summer, so any weather advice, don't take it from me. I went in the very very heat July, late July game, so I was in a very very nice weather. Too nice to be hot. It was very hot,
Of
but
course, Jason added, covering soccer is the only enjoyable experience at Nissan Stadium. Well, he's right about that right now. It certainly is. Of course, Nashville FC doesn't even play in Nissan Stadium anymore. But when I went to go cover them, they were still in Nissan Stadium. So, yeah, it's the only one going on. Only one going on in Nashville these days is on the soccer pitch.
yeah.
Or
But
maybe Vanderbilt football.
yeah. But just wrapping up what you asked me, it's a really big stadium. It surprised me how big it is. The press conference is all the way up in the top, so I felt like I was look up was very high. It was funny. I remember the one thing I really remember was a bridge that connected some of the parking lots to the stadium. So that was a unique thing that I remember from Ohio State Stadium. Was a bridge that connected some parking lots to like the stadium, and overall it was a nice experience. But again, it was a friendly soccer, friendly European soccer tournament, not college football playoff, which is definitely another ball game.
Right. It's going to be just an unreal. I'll be curious to see how that environment. I'm excited to see the Ohio State marching band, them dot the I and stuff, because Ohio State has one of the best marching bands in the entire country, if not the best D1 marching band. And I say this as a alum of the Pride, and Tennessee's current band director, Dr. Michael Stewart, he's actually an alum of Ohio State, so I'm sure he is very conflicted about this game. But I think I saw on Facebook his loyalty is now live with Tennessee, even though he is an Ohio State alum. So shout out to Dr. Stewart, and hopefully he enjoys his return trip to Columbus this weekend. Also, right now, I just want to say this. I'm watching the Lady Vols play. They're at Memphis tonight in the FedEx Forum, and the crowd is like 90-10 Tennessee fans. It's all orange. I mean, there's not that much blue.
I guess there were some elderly folks that made a 6-hour drive.
Well, actually, I have some friends that are at that game, but you can tell it's a. Well, it's not. I'll say this: I think Kim Codwell is will be bringing a younger fan base to the Lady Vols.
No, yeah, definitely. But I'm just saying because historically, as you know, the Lady Vols fan base is a very like a very old demographic.
Right, because they remember the Lady Vols when they were dominant back in the 90s. But I think the way that Kim Caldwell is performing so far, they're 8-0. They beat NCA&T the other day by 80 points. They were 69.5-point favorites in that game and won by 80, which is nuts. Now they're actually losing to Memphis, who's 2-7, so that's a little concerning in the second quarter, but hopefully they can kind of get it going here soon. Just keep them away from John Morant. All right, but let's dive back into some of those college football games. And you were mentioning that you had credentials to Ohio State versus Indiana, and Indiana at Notre Dame, Kirk Cincinnati versus Marcus Freeman. Notre Dame's a over touchdown favorite in this game. There's two camps of people. There's a lot of people who seem to think IU has no chance in this game at all. The second camp of people who would think, Notre Dame are big game chokers. They're going to find a way to screw this up. What gives here? Does Indiana's inexperience in this spot and relative untested nature catch up with them, or does Notre Dame's reputation for blowing a big game catch up with them?
First of all, I feel like the sports fans of the state of Indiana must be feeling at least proud, because not in a million years, if you were to ask Indiana, somebody from the state of Indiana, the scenario, they would have been like, oh, it's a dream, but it will never happen. Because I think, I don't remember who told me that.
Well,
but
maybe outside of Jason. I feel like everyone outside of Jason.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think, I don't remember if it was Jason who said that, but there's a lot of people who root for Notre Dame football and Indiana basketball. So
Yeah, he
Okay.
says he is not proud.
I guess a lot of so not all of sports fans of Indiana are proud. Most, not all, not all. But
And
I
by the
think,
time this game is played, I'll be in Indiana watching it. So there you go.
but I think the game itself. I think all the pressures on Marcus Freeman, because Indiana is playing with house money on the road. They, the Hoosier fans are like, we are happy just to be here. Who would have thought Indiana was? I think not a long time ago they were like in below 500. Like they're not doing good. So there was an incredible rebuild.
Oh, absolutely. And to be fair, Indiana did benefit from a very easy schedule. First ones are out of conference. They didn't really play anyone. They buy out of a game against Louisville, who is a team that I think arguably is probably better than Indiana, just didn't get a chance to show up because it didn't play. And then look at their Big Ten schedule. Their best win is Michigan. At 75, then Michigan went on to beat Ohio State, but I mean Indiana got also blown by Ohio State, and Indiana did not play Oregon or Penn State in Big Ten play. But hey, Indiana won every other game, and they won most of them by a very large margin. I mean, they beat Nebraska by 50, blew out Michigan State and East Lansing, beat Purdue 66-0 in the last game of the year. So, I mean, they earned their way in based on, because here's the thing, like if you look at Florida State last year, for example, they were just barely getting by teams, especially after Jordan Travis went down with an injury. But Indiana was blowing teams out. So I think there is some strength to that 11-1 record. And I do think there is some talent on that Indiana team. Now, a lot of that is transfers from James Madison. So it's definitely not a high-end talented team, but I think Kirk Cignetti gets the most out of his team. And Jason says, not every 50-point win is created equally. And I agree. I get that. But still, I feel like Indiana is better than I feel like some people will give them credit for. Now, Notre Dame, on the other hand, go ahead.
No, I think I'm gonna point out about Notre Dame, but one thing I have to point out is that Notre Dame's schedule wasn't that much tough either. And I mean, compare the losses. Indiana lost to Ohio State, which is the number 8 team in the country. Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois. I repeat, Northern Illinois.
Yes. They lost to Northern Illinois. And I know Northern fans are like, oh, well, we beat Texas A&M. Well, Texas A&M isn't even ranked at the end of the year. They are going to say, their best one's Louisville. So, yeah, the team that Indiana decided to skip playing this year, USC was not good. Stanford was not good. I mean, yeah, Florida State had 2 wins, so you can't say that's a good win. Notre Dame just doesn't, as you said, they don't really have any good wins either. So I really don't know truly how good either one of these teams are. Now, Notre Dame has a lot more talent. Just on paper, they have more talent across the board. And to me, where Notre Dame should win this game is with Jeremiah Love on the ground. They should be able to run at will in this game. Now, if for some reason they cannot, for some reason they don't establish the run at night, and was probably going to end up being a snow game in South Bend, Indiana, if they don't establish the run, then, that's when they could get in trouble. Because if this ends up being a low-scoring game, if the offense stalls, which we have seen from Notre Dame this year, that gives Indiana a shot. And if you're Notre Dame, you need to get away from them quickly, because I don't know if Indiana's going to be able to catch up with you if you get away from them. Don't give Indiana hope heading into that second half, because clearly when you look at Cignetti, he has that program and he has that team believing. And I don't think it's impossible that Indiana finds a way to pull this off. But I am going to pick Notre Dame to win this game.
I pick the Hoosiers. Give me Indiana.
It would be so funny. It would be so funny if Indiana won this game.
Yeah, as Jason pointed out perfectly, the Hoosiers quarterback is from Canada, so he probably used to playing with a lot of snow.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's going to be a fun game. I really think this will be a very interesting game. But I just think Notre Dame's going to have too much. But Marcus Freeman, as you mentioned, he better not lose that game at home. He better not lose to Indiana. Otherwise, it's going to be real ugly for him in South Bend. Now, speaking of more pressures here, James Franklin needs to, at the bare minimum, make the semifinals this year. He has a path of SMU and Boise State. And so he's going to have the vastly more talented roster in both games. He cannot afford to lose these games at all, especially with his big game reputation.
Because the game that he could afford losing was the Big Ten championship. Ironically, it's funny. Ironically, when Penn State won the Big Ten title was worthless because then Ohio State ended up going to the college football playoffs and Penn State was left out. Now it was the opposite. They lost the Big Ten championship. That if they confirm their favoritism of both SMU and eventually Boise State, they could end up in the college football semifinals, not winning the Big Ten championship.
Right, and Oregon's going to play Tennessee or Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. As we said, we talked about this beforehand for weeks. Oregon should have intentionally lost the Big Ten title game for the playoffs. But they decided not to, and here they go. Now they got to play Tennessee or Ohio State. Well, Penn State gets to play SMU. The first one. Now, SMU, to me, they're kind of what I see with it, what some other folks do with Indiana. I don't think SMU is particularly great or really even that good. SMU, their only loss of the year was early to BYU. They struggled early with Nevada. Then they've gotten better throughout the year because they made a quarterback change from Preston Stone to Kevin Jennings. And Kevin Jennings has taken off, but SMU has beating literally their best win is also Louisville. I feel like I'm hyping up Louisville a lot, but they've lost some games here. But
I guess to Jason's Wire team credit, I guess Louisville had a hard schedule. If you want to talk about hard schedule, look at Louisville. Louisville had to play SMU, Notre Dame, Indiana,
Well, they didn't play Indiana. Indiana backed out. They did play Miami as well. And they beat Clemson on the road. So Louisville played 3 different playoff teams.
Yeah.
Louisville did have a pretty hard schedule by playoff standards. If they won any of those games, Louisville could have been in the discussion. I don't know. To me, obviously, it's a great story to see SMU back here, given how that program was recovered from the death penalty their first year in the ACC. It's so embarrassing for Mario Cristobal that SMU is in here and he is not. Penn State should win big. There's no excuse. James Franklin, there is no excuse. You should win this game by multiple touchdowns.
At home. He doesn't have any excuse. At home.
Yeah, there's no excuse here. All right. The last semifinal we haven't talked about yet is number 12 Clemson getting in via the ACC championship that they won going to Texas. And this is outside Tennessee, Ohio State, the other, I think, really big helmet matchup. Although Clemson isn't exactly what they've been in the past, they're here. They found a way to be here. And Texas,
thanks to Mario Cristobal.
Yep, thanks to Mario Cristobal. And thank you to Syracuse.
Mario Cristobal should really be put into scrutiny because he literally blew not one, but 2 opportunities to get into the playoffs, and he missed it with a high talent quarterback. How?
And by far the most talented roster in the ACC. It's just pathetic. It's so pathetic. SMU has half the talent that Miami does. And SMU's in the playoff. And for me here, when I look at Clemson, their defense isn't as good as it's been in the past. But Klubnik has played well throughout the year, although he only really, I think, looked good in the SMU game. He didn't look good against Louisville. He didn't look good against Georgia. Didn't look good against South Carolina. And Texas is the second best team they've played all year in Georgia, after Georgia. Now, Dabo, of course, has a ton of playoff experience. Sark is 0-1 in the playoffs. They lost to Washington last year, but I don't think Clemson is Washington. And this one's at home. The only question I really have for Texas is if Quinn Ewers goes out there and struggles, how long of a leash will Sark give him until he turns to Arch Manning? That's the question for Texas. Because to me, he should start Arch Manning.
In this game, no. You don't want to put like we literally talked about this when Jason was in the segment about kickers, and I think the same. You went with Quinn Ewers the entire season. Don't if he start the game slow, not good, replace at halftime. I think that's better than you start Arch Manning and put all the pressure on him and devalue Quinn Ewers. Start with Quinn Ewers. Don't think about don't like change in the last minute. Like go with what you know, and if you have to make changes, do it during the game, not before or I think Sark it's wise enough to really don't make drastic changes before a big game.
Yeah, maybe not before, but I think you should take a page from Nick Saban in 2017 because I think Arch Manning is just more talented than Quinn Ewers, and that Texas offense against Georgia was absolutely pathetic. And if we get a Texas Georgia Part 3. He better not be afraid to pull the trigger. But I will say in this game, though, I think Texas is going to have too much at home. But I could see this one being close-ish. Is because Dabo knows his way around a playoff game.
Yeah. I think that's the only thing going for Clemson is Dabo's winning experience when it comes to a big game like that. Because Sark kind of struggled. I mean, of course, last year they went to the college football playoffs, but they were eliminated by Washington in a match that went all the way to the last play. And I think, and I want to ask you this, Nick, about what this game's gonna cement for Dabo Swinney's legacy, because we all thought, oh, he's done. He did all he could for Clemson, and he's back again on a big game.
Absolutely. If he goes out and upsets Texas in Austin, I mean, man, wouldn't we all have to kind of shut up about Dabo? And to his credit, Clemson finally got a transfer portal player this week for the first time ever.
Oh my god! It's gonna snow in Brazil. Wow.
Yeah. Shout out Dabo for finally using the portal, but Dabo, we'll see if Dabo is an old dog that can learn new tricks and beat this new Texas team.
And definitely, Sark is now in a position where all the oh my god, we made the playoffs all new was last year. This year is like we need to cement. We are the Texas Longhorns that really prove that Texas is back. Not just saying that, but really mean it.
Absolutely. The whole Texas is back, folks. It's no longer a meme. It's time to make Texas actually back. And I think they beat Clemson.
So I got Tennessee, Indiana. I'll go with Penn State and Texas.
Okay, so let's pick the rest of the brackets here. So you would have, from top to bottom, you would have Tennessee versus Oregon in the Rose Bowl in the quarterfinals. Who would you pick there?
Tennessee.
Okay. You would have Texas, Arizona State in the Peach Bowl.
Oh, no No doubt about it. Longhorns.
Okay. In the actually, I don't know which bowl games would be. In one of the other bowl games, you would have Penn State, Boise State, Fiesta Bowl.
Boise State.
Boise State. I love it. And then Sugar Bowl, you'd have Indiana, Georgia.
Georgia.
Okay. So in the semis, you would have in the Cotton Bowl, you would have Tennessee and Texas.
As much as I want Tennessee to win, it's going to be the home crowd for Texas. I think it's going to be Longhorns, unfortunately.
All right. And then in the Orange Bowl, you would have Georgia and you would have Boise State.
Georgia.
All right. So now national championship, third round between Texas and Georgia.
Texas.
Yeah. Hard to beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. All right. For me, so I have Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Tennessee. So Tennessee, Oregon, Rose Bowl. It would be amazing to see Tennessee in the Rose Bowl. Oregon's just a really well-rounded team. I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm going to take the Ducks, but I think it'd be a really good game. Texas, Arizona State. I'm taking Texas. Penn State, Boise. I am going to take Penn State. I feel like everyone is taking Boise. Penn State's just a better team. I'm taking Penn State. I'm taking Georgia over Notre Dame. Texas, Oregon would be an unbelievable semifinal. That would be an incredible game.
I think it's going to be this matchup would have been better than Texas Washington last year.
Yes, I think. Well, to be honest, I'm taking Oregon in that game, and then in Georgia, Penn State, I'm taking Georgia. So give me Dan Lannon versus Kirby. And Georgia finds a way to win it in Atlanta for the championship. So there you go. So I have Georgia winning it all. You have Texas winning it all. We both have Georgia. I mean, to me, it would be a shock if Georgia did not make the championship. Because their biggest threat is either Penn State or Notre Dame. They got the easiest road possible.
I guess in a way, the winning the SEC championship was worth for Georgia in terms of path because Texas has to face Clemson and then, a harder path.
Right. At least they got Arizona State second round. Now, I feel like we're just disrespecting some of these other teams. Like Arizona State's a good team. They're not beating Texas, though. I think. It'd be a shock. The shock of the decade. So, obviously, there are other football games ongoing this week. First and foremost, shout out to Army, or actually shout out to Navy for winning the Navy-Army game this past week. So, big one for them. We actually have other bowl games going on as well. And to be fair, in this expanded playoff era, who really cares about the other bowl games? But, Memphis beat West Virginia last night in the Frisco Bowl. South Alabama beat Western Michigan in the Salute to Veterans Bowl. I don't even know what that is. James Madison just won the Boca Raton Bowl tonight. And Cal and UNLV are playing right now in the LA Bowl. So, I don't know, guys, if there's any other games you're interested in. I mean, Florida plays at 3:30 on Friday, so that's interesting. They play in the Gasparilla Bowl against Tulane.
In Tampa. That's in the Buccaneers Stadium.
Yeah, Florida fans are so happy to be there, by the way. Just remember that. They're Tennessee 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're going to show up. I think that's going to be the bowl games with the kind of the most fans because both bowl games is all about perspective. It's, for example, this year's Citrus Bowl is going to be so hangover. But at least Michigan fans are going to go with the way that we can lose 55-0. we don't care. We're there to have fun. Alabama is like, do we really have to be here?
Right. Because I'm just looking at the next week here. Sam Houston and New Orleans. That'll be an interesting one just because Sam Houston is like their second year in FBS. I know making a bowl game for them is pretty big. So, but otherwise, their games aren't that big to me. But, Florida will be interesting at least outside of the playoff games.
I think the only bowl that I kind of want to touch is the bowl game between bowl game between Marshall and Army, and Marshall withdraw from the bowl game to a lack of players. That's not good for college football as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. Louisiana Tech, 5-7. Louisiana Tech has been designated the replacement for Army or for Marshall.
And nothing against Louisiana Tech. They should probably play their hearts out. If they win, they deserve. But the biggest problem of all is that, do you think that's going to spread into more situations like that? I don't think it's going to stop only this.
Absolutely. Like if you have a whole team that transfers at once, why would the team play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the point? And I think it's going to come up with a big issue than a big time program like an Ole Miss or Auburn or even Alabama or let's say Michigan or any kind of blue blood do that. Then you really start to questioning the whole system.
Like how many Ole Miss fans do you think are traveling to Jacksonville for the Gator Bowl?
Very few. Probably those ones who are there every game, no matter. I mean, only the fans that if Ole Miss would play in Mars, they would have been there somehow.
Right. Because that's just hilarious. Lane Kiffin's most important season. And he's playing in the same bowl game that Jeremy Pruitt went to.
Yeah.
That is brutal. That is a brutal dose of reality for Ole Miss. Just, yeah. Yeah, but that was a big point there about Marshall. And I just wonder if we're going to see that again. Because we probably will. But speaking of a changing era of college football, how about Bill Belichick? Officially the new coach at North Carolina. This is a wild decision.
But not surprised. I think it keeps a tradition because who is the coach that Bill Belichick is replacing? Mac Brown. And he was a big-time coach that won the Natty with the Longhorns. So North Carolina football, it's a destination for coaches who are not in their prime, but they achieve big-time success.
Yeah, they're the MLS of college football jobs.
That's a good point. I mean, because MLS is a place where for people who achieve big-time success in soccer in Europe, go where their career it's almost by the end.
Right. It's a retirement home where you can go make a lot of money.
Yeah, because I guess Mac Brown now I don't see him going anywhere else. So you can see he retired. And Bill Belichick, unless he come back to the NFL, I don't see him also coach any other team.
Well, he apparently really wanted the Jets job, but they wouldn't consider him.
No, that's too cruel. I mean, the way he left the New York Jets, I think it's like you don't go back to your ex-girlfriend that ditched you by a text or that kind of, and then when date your like some sort of a rival, you just don't do that. The way he left the Jets, he should never work there. I'm not questioning his credentials. I'm just saying like he was his departure was too traumatic to forgive.
Right. And apparently the job he was really, really interested in was the Bears to work with Caleb Williams. But I just don't think that would work. I don't think his personality would work with Caleb Williams. So if I'm Chicago, I would go hire Lincoln Riley. Because I don't think Lincoln Riley wants to be in college football anymore.
Lincoln Riley is praying to get NFL job. I think
Yeah.
he wants to get out of college.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, if you look at his team, it's falling apart. There are people transferring left and right. His recruiting rankings are terrible. USC is not going to be competitive in the Big Ten, and he could be like a Cliff Kingsbury, jump to the NFL and have way more success.
Yeah, 100%. I think he can be the next Clinsbury. Definitely. I think he should have gone to the NFL a little sooner. For example, if it was the Cowboys, I would have get him instead of Mike McCarthy.
That's a very good point. I would agree with that. Cowboys maybe should go hire him again this year because the Cowboys are going to need a new head coach, I think. But
yeah.
In any case, what are the expectations here for Bill Belichick? Do we think he's going to win the ACC at North Carolina?
I mean, it's a conference that is wide open. Look at like the program that won it, Clemson. It was not the late 2010s, early 2020s Clemson. It was probably the low point of Double Sweeney's era, and he still managed to win the conference. And North Carolina was able to recruit in some high level. I mean, they had a first round quarterback not long like 2 seasons ago with Drake May. So the appeal is there.
They got the Jordan brand. There's a lot of money in North Carolina. It's going to be hilarious when he coaches against Mario Cristobal at Miami.
How much of I think it's going to be the biggest mismatch of a coaching in ACC.
Right. And then when Bill Belichick goes and coaches at Miami, because he's coached at Miami a lot. He's owned Miami.
I mean, both had terrible losses there in the last second, but at least one of them was playing on the road, and Mario Cristobal was playing at home. So,
right.
But I think the expectations, like you asked, for Bill Belichick is to be at least in the first year getting to a bowl game. I think he can do that. I think his schedule is very winnable in terms of like 6-7 wins. And then by next year, if he stays there, because you saw there's a clause that he can leave with no buyout, I think by like June
of this year.
I think next year.
Wow. That's pretty wild. He just doesn't like it anymore. Which be so Bill Belichick, I feel like.
No, he's just stating for North Carolina. Okay, I'll come. I'll take the opportunity, but I am NFL head coach. I'm doing this. I'm getting this opportunity, but if I will find an appealing offer from the league that I am one of the greatest coaches of all time, I will come back.
Right. But I will say this. I think this move for Belichick is directed at two people. One is directed at Tom Brady, because when Tom Brady left and got that Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, it forever dispelled the notion of Tom Brady needing Bill Belichick to win out of those Super Bowls. And now people are questioning, did Belichick need Brady to win out of those Super Bowls? Because Belichick has done nothing outside of when he didn't have Brady. And I think, two, Nick Saban. Him and Saban are good friends because Saban did not succeed in the NFL. So I think Belichick wants to see, can I go and succeed in college football to be the greatest coach of my generation?
That's exactly what I thought. I mean, because a lot of people have this debate of both. Who's the greatest football coach? And you would point out, one is the greatest in college football but failed in the NFL. The other is the greatest in the NFL but never tried in college. But it's hard because Saban, of course it wasn't a success, but like, can we say it was a total failure? I mean, I think he made up. He have more, if he had to Drew Brees and at least stay one more year, maybe he would have made to the playoffs. But I think there's the different notions of failure in college football and the NFL. I think if he goes like have 2 8-win seasons for North Carolina, does he fail?
2 8-win seasons. I mean, that'd be, well, in the ACC with the talent that we think he's going to get. But then again, how good is the recruiting going to be? Because he's hired a TV guy as a GM. And that's the other thing about this, too. He is organizing North Carolina as if it were an NFL team.
And I think it's going to be a landmark for what the future of college football is going to look like. Because maybe North Carolina is experimenting the new era of college football, which is running as a pro football program with GM, with a coach. Because I guess now with the way that it's going to design, maybe do you think recruiting is going to be so much like it was, like coaching going on the road with the emotion appeal and more like negotiating contracts and trying to get the best deal out of it, like a pro.
If they don't adjust the schedule, they're going to have to. It's impossible for these coaches to keep up with everything right now because you have National Signing Day, you have transfer portal, you've got the playoffs, bowl games. I mean, we just saw a whole team have to pull out of a bowl game because of this.
That's why Bill Belichick probably demanded a general manager, because the off the field stuff, it's the GM's job to keep up with National Signing Day, with transfer portal, with the kind of the intertwine between players signing and leaving the program. Probably for the new position of GM of a college football is going to be a hellhole, because it's not like in the NFL they negotiate maybe 1 or 2 or 3 free agencies that you're trying to find trades with other GMs in college football. No, it's you negotiate with probably 50 to 60% of your roster every year.
Right. And speaking of that, how will Belichick do with Gen Z? How will he do with younger athletes? Because I just feel like his style was one thing with professional athletes, and a lot of people couldn't get along with Bill Belichick, and they thought he was too hard, too harsh. Like, do we feel like, and especially in the modern age, we see these football players, right? They'll transfer for any reason.
I think Bill Belichick is definitely going to try to find in transfer portal the so-called veteran college football player, like those 23, 24-year-olds that probably have go from one program to the other, their second or third or even fourth football program, that knows how tough it is, instead of recruiting those bright kids coming out of high school.
Right, because I heard someone say this. I think it might have been Colin Cowherd talking about how, do you think that Bill Belichick is going to powwow with other head coaches on campus? Do you think he's going to, do the traditional college coach thing? Is he going to go do pep rallies and stuff? No, I don't think Bill Belichick's going to care at all about that.
Yeah, I think North Carolina is going to, what it looks like, they're going to try to run a pro football operations in college football. That's literally what they're trying to do. They got a GM for a reason. They got Bill Belichick as a head coach for a reason.
Yeah, the game I can't wait, because North Carolina does have Clemson on the schedule. Belichick and Dabo in the same game is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I am excited.
The egos on display in that game. I mean,
and Nick Saban has to be there to be the color commentator. Imagine the best friend, the guy who have very private, really deep connection with Belichick, against the coach who really had so many battles against.
Right. Belichick, Sweeney, that's going to be some crazy ones. And also, too, if we ever run in North Carolina, I'm curious how Belichick would approach defending the Heupel offense as a defensive mastermind. So it's going to be fascinating. I'm curious to see how it works. I have my doubts because I just don't think he's going to relate to modern students. But the thing about modern players is, you know, you tell them, hey, this guy coached Tom Brady and has won 7 Super Bowls. Maybe they're willing to overlook some of that other stuff. So who knows?
I think Bill you know, it's funny. We're all saying now, oh my God, the college coaches they want to leave. They want to go to the NFL because of the environment of modern college football is right now. And I think Bill Belichick probably is coming to college football because of all those NIL and transfer portal changes. Because if it was 10 years ago, even if he left New England and, won the amount of Super Bowls that he won, I think was until like 2014 was like 4, like he probably wouldn't go because he definitely want to be in the recruiting trail, getting players to the recruiting and having all those issues transferring. But now he can run a college football program as like he run the New England Patriots.
Right. I think that's absolutely correct as well. So, going to be fascinating to see Belichick at North Carolina. There's also some other big news. Rich Rodriguez returning to West Virginia. He had previously been at West Virginia before 2001 to 2007. His last game at West Virginia was that 13-9 devastating loss to Pittsburgh that kept him out of the national championship. And right after that game, he went to take the job at Michigan, completely failed there. Went to Arizona, had an okay run, and then kind of went off the face of the earth for a few years, but has returned. He won the DCUSA this year with Jacksonville State. Can Rich Rod have a repeat of success at West Virginia in his second go-around?
He probably is not going to have the opportunity that he had in 2007 where the college football landscape was way different than it is right now. Because if you think about it, like in 2007, like so many programs that are reigning right now were not even close. Like Oregon was nowhere to be seen. Alabama was going first year of Saban, they lost to Louisiana Monroe. Georgia was also not good. Of course they were.
Okay, Oregon and Georgia in 2007 were actually really good. Oregon was number 1 at times that year. Georgia, if they hadn't lost to Tennessee that year, they would have been in the national championship.
But I think it's a cling to the past. West Virginia is clinging to the past.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about West Virginia is they clung to Neil Brown a little too long. And they're in a weird position because they're in a conference that's kind of in a geographical no man's land in the Big 12 at West Virginia. They would make more sense in the ACC, but they're just rather would be in the Big 12. Of course, you're in a state that you're in one of the few states in the country that is losing population, so you're not really getting any talent from inside of West Virginia because there really is no talent inside of West Virginia. So you have to go abroad to get your talent. And how many people are you going to convince to come to West Virginia? Not a lot, because it's West Virginia. Who wants to go live in West Virginia? Like, I think that is some of the issues that West Virginia runs into remaining a top flight football program. Because they've never really been a true top flight football program. They had a few years with Pat Wright, where they should have won the national title in 2007, and they didn't do it. And they're not getting that feeling back. They're not going to run the Big 12.
Yeah, but I think it's a good opportunity for both. But I think it's a cling to the past.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to Dave Clawson. He's retiring after 13 years at Wake Forest. Had a really good run at Wake Forest standards. Had a really good run there. Had some really good teams, especially with Sam Hartman. And they had the whole slow RPO, the walking mesh, they called it. So shout out to him. I don't know who'll take that job, but rumor is Tim Banks, so Tennessee's defensive coordinator, could be a candidate for that job. Because I think he's going to be a hot name for some jobs with how good Tennessee's defense has been. So hopefully we can keep him because he's been awesome. But we'll be monitoring.
Yeah, I think definitely Wake Forest is a good job, and he may be tempted to go be their head coach.
Absolutely. And hey, if we lose him to becoming a head coach, that's good for Josh Heupel because that means he's building a tree. Then he can go out and get another really good DC. So it's not bad if you're losing people to promotions. So look at Kirby Smart at Georgia. Like Dan Lanning is his coaching tree, and that's all worked out. Of course, I referenced earlier, Clemson is finally using the transfer portal, and literally everyone else. There is so much happening in the transfer portal; it's literally insane. It's too much to keep up with. But you have so many quarterbacks in the portal, so many other players in the portal. Guys leaving after 1 year because they're not starting. It's just insane. I don't know how anyone keeps up with it.
Do you think there's gonna come a time where there's gonna be more, like, not rules, but more clarity into the transfer portal of like? Do you think the transfer portal is gonna become like the NFL deadline, like a NFL trading deadline, kind of? You have a time and you have like some more like strict rules, like the NFL does it.
Right. And I think one of the problems we're seeing here, some of these guys there needs to be a limit on how many times you transfer. Some of these guys are going to their fifth or sixth. So like TJ Finley, the quarterback this year for Western Kentucky. He had previously been at LSU, Auburn, and Texas State. This year he was at Western Kentucky, and he just announced he's transferring to Tulane. Why are we letting guys go to 5, 6 schools?
Because then now for Tulane fans, like, whoa, you got a player that went to LSU and Auburn. So these guys that did not succeed in the blue blue bloods programs, they have an opportunity to go somewhere else and at least keep that brand, not keep that oh, it's a player from LSU. We got a player that went to Alabama.
Right. But I do want to highlight just some key signings. First and foremost, former Vol, Caden Salter. Remember Caden? 4-star recruit. And, of course, he got kicked off the team due to issues, went to Liberty. He announced today he's going to Colorado. So it looks like he'll be the Shedeur replacement.
Yeah, I was going to say big shoes to fill.
Right. And it seems like Dion's actually going to stay in for the long haul, which I was not anticipating, but hey. Because he's actually done a pretty good job with Colorado, at least this year. But I still have my doubts about them long term now that he's losing Travis Hunter, who, by the way, Travis Hunter, congratulations on the Heisman. I think it was well deserved. There's some people who are saying, oh, Ashton Genty should have won, but Hunter just was doing stuff that we haven't seen before. I mean, playing both ways all the time is insane.
Yeah, I think well deserved. As you said, being good in the offensive side and defensive side makes a difference.
Right. And Genty was amazing. And basically, any other year, Genty would have won. This year, though, you had to give it to Hunter. And it was crazy. You had some people who were complaining about basically, oh, it's just Dion favoritism. It was bias. Some people were calling it woke for some reason. But, like, it just didn't make any sense. I don't know. People are going to complain about anything, I guess.
Yeah, is the the bias of if my guy loses, there's some shadow reason why. No, it's because the other guy deserves it.
Right. If anyone else had won it would have been a problem. But Travis Hunter got it done. But also another big transfer, though, John Mateer, and this is the one that has me concerned, just from a Tennessee perspective. John Mateer, the Washington State quarterback, and he was really good this year. He is transferring with his OC over to Oklahoma as they look to rebuild their offense. I'm here to tell you right now, Oklahoma is going to be a lot better next year. I think they're going to be way better next year.
Yeah. Watch out. I mean, and because Brent Venables in his side of the ball, they did good. It's just, as you said, in the offensive side, things didn't work out. And the way they finished their season with an impressive win against Alabama, keeping them out of the playoffs, definitely they can do some damage next season.
Right. Right. Yeah, but of course, there's transfers going on literally all over the place. So huge, huge day. Going to be interesting to see. We did also get one of our first big pickups in Tennessee. We got an offensive lineman from Arizona, 6'3" and 330 pounds. I think that is huge. I think we also need to really get a wide receiver as well, a wide receiver to a stud, because we've lost some receivers like Chaz Nimrod, namely to the portal. But I think it's kind of like what you saw with the defensive backs last year. I think this coaching staff sees that this wide receiver room wasn't great this year, and it's time to kind of trim the herd a little bit, because you're going to have a second-year Nico next year, and you don't want to waste him.
Yeah, I think that was a good pick in the portal, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. And there's one more thing I was going to say, college football related. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a Netflix documentary coming out soon, and Tennessee is going to be one of the featured programs. Kind of like F1 Drive to Survive, kind of. But it's going to involve Tennessee, so I can't wait for that to come out.
I mean, finally we're gonna watch a college football program that we like, not that we hate.
Exactly.
And Netflix.
Absolutely. Speaking of programs that we like, though, let's turn our attention to the basketball court, though, because our basketballs remain number one after just an incredible game on Saturday at Illinois. Wow, this game was nuts. It was a slugfest, highly defensive, foul trouble galore. We couldn't breathe on Illinois without getting a foul. I got a foul called on me on Saturday because the refs were calling fouls nonstop on everyone on Saturday. And literally, Chaz Lanier was fouled out. Sakai Siegler was almost fouled out. We were on the brink, but Jordan Gainey just took over out of nowhere, had 23 points, including the buzzer beater to win. And to me, that was like a sign to me that I think this team is truly for real and has a shot to go really deep in March. Because winning on the road in that environment with everything against you. I mean, literally everything was against Tennessee in this game. The refs were against Tennessee. The crowd was against Tennessee. But they found a way to get it done. And a huge road non-conference win. And, of course, yesterday they just shellacked Western Carolina by 50. They still have MTSU at Norfolk State. Should win both of those before conference play. So, shout out to Rick Barnes and company.
Yeah, I think that ending was electric. And it was funny now how when we play those Big Ten programs, we have that kind of issue with officiating, because it reminded me a lot of the Purdue game, I think back in the March Madness. There was a lot of issue with the refs.
I don't know what it is, but Big Ten teams always get such a favorable whistle, and it's ridiculous. But hey, we got it done. Huge win, and we are looking great heading into SEC play. And SEC play is going to be ridiculous. 5 of the 7 top teams in the country right now are SEC programs. Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, Alabama, and Florida, which have to be the 5 most toxic fan bases in the entire league. It's gonna think about these environments. Like when Tennessee goes to Auburn or Alabama comes to Tennessee, it's just gonna be nuts.
And how things changed. 10 years ago, there were 3 programs in the entire SEC, in the entire college football basketball season, that were ranked. And now you have what? 8, 9?
I think right now, I think it's 9 teams are ranked. And right now, there's 12 projected teams in the field. Because there's and obviously it's way too early to really look at bracketology. But, well, actually, Jordan Leonard, he has Auburn as his top overall seed and not Tennessee. So, but I'm assuming he has Tennessee as a 1 seed somewhere right now. Tennessee, he has Tennessee as a 1 seed in the Midwest playing Southern. But, I mean, you can't really look that far ahead into it. But Right now, he has 12 teams from the SEC. On the seed line.
Yeah,
And additionally,
I think,
he has 13 to 16 teams are in the field.
and I think they're still too early. Bracketologists should really take kind of a little bit of like college football playoff selection shows by middle February, and even then, a lot can change between the last month of regular season and conference championships.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I've pulled it up if we just want to take a very, very just quick look at this. Of course, see the breakdown now. The SEC has 13 teams. The Big Ten has 10. Rip the Pac-12. I mean, the SEC and Big Ten are just going to dominate. Of course, Big 12 is really good. Shout out to the Big East. This is Tennessee's bracket right now. If it were to happen, oh my God, this would have Purdue in the Sweet 16. That we can't get away from Purdue, but this is not the final bracket. But hey, it would be interesting to see this go down in that way. And also, as I mentioned too, Lady Vols are playing tonight as well. They're undefeated. They're up by 11 right now in the third quarter at Memphis. Kind of an underwhelming performance, but they're showing Kim Codwell right now. She does not look quite pleased. The team has 12 turnovers tonight, so I'm sure she's going to rip her team in the post game because she has that fire. Like, I'm not going to say she's like Pat. Like, you can't compare any coach to Pat Summitt, but she has a fire that makes this team exciting, and I can't wait to see what they do in conference play. They're currently ranked number 18 in the country. All right, let's talk some NFL because this past week was pretty interesting. First and foremost, probably the game of the week was the Bills and the Lions, and man, Josh Allen had himself a day in Ford Field. And to me, I see this two ways. One, Buffalo looks awesome right now. They look like a legit contender. But this is also the other problem for Buffalo. Are they peaking too early? Because we all know what happens to Buffalo in January.
Buffalo fans are like, we're good, but Buffalo Bills is like Tennessee basketball. It's like, okay, you guys can play in a regular season. We have to know you guys can deliver that in the postseason.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know if I still truly believe that the Bills will win in the postseason. I'm going to have to see them win in the postseason to believe it.
Yeah, but Josh Allen definitely should be a favorite to win the MVP.
Yeah, well, him or Lamar. I think it's really close between him and Lamar right now, but probably would favor Josh Allen.
I think because he's more flashy this season, I think Josh Allen is going to win it.
Right, and I think Josh Allen has less around him, too. His best weapon, James Cook, while Lamar literally has Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference there. Also, for the Lions, to me, there were some questionable game decisions here. Like when the Lions got down by 10 with like 11 minutes left, why did Dan Campbell go for an onside kick? I feel like he should have tried to play
defense. He's a risk taker. He's a risk taker.
He is a risk taker. And it works more often than not, but I think that one backfired on him. But as I said, you can't really hate him for that because, hey, he is a risk taker. But I am curious to see what his risk taking is like if he's hosting playoff games, Like, how risky is it going to be if he's hosting the Eagles, I think that's where it gets really interesting. Speaking of the Eagles, they completely suffocated the Steelers. And the Eagles, for all of the maligning and all the complaining about the Eagles early in the year, they look really good. Like, this team looks better than the one 2 years ago that got to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
And it's so funny how the Eagles right now are peaking when a couple weeks ago, we were questioning even if Nick Sirianni was going to survive up until this point in the season.
Oh, absolutely. Like that, just a huge, huge turnaround for Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. And to me, the Eagles, like if I had to bet on any one team to win it all, I would probably bet on the Eagles to win it all. Because to me, your main contenders are the Eagles, the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs. And maybe the Ravens. One of those 4 or 5 teams are winning it all.
My dark horse to get to the Super Bowl, watch out for the Los Angeles Rams.
Well, they're getting hot at the right time, and they're going, yeah. And of course, they got a benefit. Seattle got blown out at home by the Packers. Another team that I think is really worth watching out for as well. But the Rams might have the free seed at the end of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Watch out for them.
Yeah, because they're getting hot. Because I don't see anyone from the NFC South winning. Speaking of Atlanta, how about them going to Michael Penix? They are done with Kirk. I mean, they paid Kirk Cousins $100 million for him to get benched by Christmas.
Like, I was talking to Rafael Della Vedova today about this. I'm not surprised. When they drafted Michael Penix, it was kind of an insurance policy that they did not fully trusted Kirk Cousins. And now they're going to use their policy.
Yep. It's time to use the policy, and let's see if it saves Atlanta's season.
Yeah, because they're still can make it to the playoffs. That's why they're making this move, because they know they still have a chance. If they didn't, they would keep Kirk Cousins to the end of the season, maybe think about next year with Michael Penix. They're like, screw it, we cannot continue with him anymore.
Right. Well, then if that's the logic, then what about the Tennessee Titans? They have benched Will Levis officially for Mason Rudolph. I don't know what this organization is doing, man. It's just a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace what the Tennessee Titans have become. And I'll say this is the least enjoyable time I've ever, I think, experienced as a Tennessee Titans fan. Like, it's just not fun to watch them play.
Not even when they had a top pick, I think back in like early 2010s, and they got Marcus Mariota.
Well, that was this and that are the 2 worst periods as a Titans fan. I mean, it just feels like there's no hope right now. How are the Titans going to fix this? Where do you fix this? I mean, what quarterback next year is coming in and fixing this? And this all goes back to Rand Carfron deciding to draft Will Levis. He should be fired for that decision. Everyone, frankly, in this organization needs to go. Rand Carfron, he thought, he saw that he was cooking this roster. He needs to go. Brian Callahan, I'm not seeing any improvement. This team is getting worse by the week. It's not working. Nothing's working right now for this team. This team has more talent than 3-11. I didn't think that'd be great. I thought they could get to 6-7 wins this year. And I thought they would improve throughout the year. That is not what we are seeing. We are seeing an absolute regression of this team. And they've given up the second most points in the AFC this year, despite some of the talent that they have on defense. It's a disgrace. And everyone in the organization should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Unfortunately, their Super Bowl window was that 2021 2022 season. That was it. That was the chance. Everything was online for Derrick Henry on his peak, Ryan Tannehill, and they blew it. They're I know we all make fun of the 28-3 and the Falcons still healing from that. Tennessee Titans are still healing for the loss against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to heal about that.
Yeah.
Game.
It's going to be with a different regime, a new general manager, new head coach, and new quarterback. Because no one who's there now is ever going to do anything that amounts to anything worth a crap. It's just disgrace, and frankly, I am done with them until they replace everyone. So fire everyone. That is my stance until everyone is fired.
But question is, sell the team or not that far?
I sell the team. To me, with the stories I've heard about Aiden Adams Strunk, is that she's not that involved. That she isn't. That she's not involved. That she doesn't make the best decision making. Doesn't have the best decisions. Of course, she inherited the team from her father. And I'm not going to go through too much into details, but let's just say I've heard for the grapevine stories about her maybe frequenting some late nights haunts in the Music City, which there's a lot of them in Nashville, and that doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other, but do you ever think with anyone from the Adams family, the Titans are ever winning a Super Bowl? No. It's like with the current Bears owner. It's like with
the current White Sox owner. Jason can tell you that.
Yeah. Do you think anyone's ever winning anything with this? No. This is just terrible. Until she gets a GM that knows what they're doing, which she has proven she can. John Robinson completely screwed up a Super Bowl window. Rand Carfron just has no idea, has no clue what he is doing. I mean, the moment he picked Will Levis, he should have been fired on the spot. If I were the owner and I saw that pick, he would have been fired on the spot.
Nicholas Hill for Tennessee Titans general manager.
Yes. First thing I'm doing is cutting Will Levis.
And the headline is former Vols student and current Tennessee GM cuts former Kentucky quarterback.
Because I watched him play an awful Tennessee secondary and put up 98 passing yards. I don't know what NFL scouts saw that I didn't see as a common fan. At least if you're going to pick anyone from that 22 season to play at Tennessee, at least play Spencer Rattler. He looked amazing. And he almost won the game the other day for the New Orleans Saints. It came up a little bit short on a 2-point conversion, but he led a game. Well, would have been a game-winning drive. So at least Rattler is showing some promise. This is just bad. Also, speaking of bench quarterbacks, Jameis Winston was also benched for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So I hate to see Jameis Winston's redemption story kind of come to that end, but unfortunately, Jameis Winston just once again keeps on throwing too many interceptions, and that's what's plagued him literally everywhere he goes. Just cannot turn off the turnovers.
And for the Cleveland Browns, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, I guess you're gonna go back to that, that vicious cycle of running through quarterbacks and getting back to losing records.
Right. That's what I'm afraid that's going to happen to the Tennessee Titans at this point. Because I don't see... Because, like, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-11. But they've been competitive in a lot of games. The Titans right now are just not competitive. At all. Yeah. Also, speaking of all of that, how bad do we think Patrick Mahomes' injury is?
That definitely can derail Kansas City Chiefs' chance for a three-peat.
Absolutely. I think they've got to be super careful. If I'm Andy Reid, I'm hesitant to play Mahomes at all the rest of the year. You need him next month.
Yeah, definitely.
You already have the division.
Yeah, that's true. Like, rest him. Like, lose. But we're fighting for the number 1 seed. Okay, do you want to be the number 1 seed and then don't have Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round?
Right, and have to start Carson Wentz instead.
But how poetic would it be, Carson Wentz taking over and winning a Super Bowl after he got injured and saw his backup winning.
Dude, imagine like what that would do for Andy Reid's legacy. Winning without Patrick Mahomes. Because he's like Belichick in that he needed Mahomes to win a Super Bowl.
It would have been like that would then define both, because then he would have won the three-peat that Belichick never did, and won with the backup quarterback, which Belichick also never did.
Right. So it's going to be very, very interesting. All right, let's pick these games this week. As we get to the third to the last week of the regular season, which is insane. All right, tomorrow night, we've got actually a really good game here. The Broncos at the Chargers.
Big fight for the wild card. I'll go with Chargers.
I'm going to go with Chargers as well. All right, on Saturday, and I can't believe these two games are going on at the same time as the college football playoff, but the reason why, because all four of these teams are playing on Christmas Day. So it's the only way they could like physically make it work. So
yeah, that's what I thought too when I saw the NFL schedule. Like, why they're playing on Saturday when they have college football games that, are, important games, not like meaningless bowl games like it happened in years past. But that's true. Like, since the NFL now owns Christmas and said, screw you, NBA, they have to do that.
Well, and to be fair, Texans Chiefs will probably be better than SMU Penn State. I mean, probably, but who knows?
Yeah.
Here, though, given the injury uncertainty, I'll take the Texans.
Texans.
All right. We got a rivalry game. Steelers-Ravens.
Ravens, but I'll bet the under.
I'll take the Ravens as well. Steelers really did not look good at the Eagles the other day. That offense did not do anything. All right. Wow. In previous years, this would have mattered so much more, but Titans-Colts.
In Lucas Oil Stadium, give me Colts.
Man, if this actually meant anything this year, because I'll already be in Indiana that day, I'd be like, maybe I should go to the Titans Colts, but I'm going to be on the road to Tennessee. I do not care to watch the Tennessee Titans.
I would have gone for the opportunity to be with Jason and both you sit down and enjoy a football game with both of your teams kind of done for the year just to enjoy it. But I get why also you don't want to go to another painful game and spend money on it.
Yeah, because I'm already spending enough money in Columbus the night before on a game that actually matters. But the Colts are winning.
Yeah, give me the Colts as well, but I'll bet the over.
All right, Giants at Falcons.
Give me Falcons.
Yeah, I think Penix wins his opener as well because the Giants are just a dead team this season. They can barely play football. All right, the Lions at the Bears.
Lions, definitely Detroit. I mean, they're undefeated on the road, and they're not going to lose this streak by a very mediocre Bears team.
Rematch of that just insane Thanksgiving game. The game that got Eberflus fired. Lions. Ohio Derby. Browns at Bengals.
With both of those fan bases healing from the college football team's loss on Saturday. Give me...
Yes.
So it's going to be the both... so both of those fan bases are going to be sad of all the loss on Saturday. So, but in the matchup, give me Bengals.
Yeah, I'll take Bengals as well. Rams at Jets.
$14 for this game. I would have paid to watch Matthew Stafford against Aaron Rodgers for $14.
Yeah, totally.
And this game has implications for the Rams. I mean, give me, even though it pains me to say for my beloved New York Jets, give me the Los Angeles Rams.
Give me Rams, and the Rams should be favored by way more than 3 points.
Yeah, I'll bet the over too.
This game could be to clinch the NFC East. The Eagles at the Commanders.
Commanders.
I think the Eagles solidify the NFC East and win. Cardinals at Panthers.
Panthers, they're playing better recently.
Yeah, they didn't look good the other day, and they kind of regressed against the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cardinals. All right, Vikings at Seahawks.
The 4 p.m. games Eastern time. Seattle bounce back. Give me Seahawks.
I'm going with the Vikings. I think they're just a better team.
Ooh.
All right, Patriots at Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, Bills. Jaguars at Raiders. No one's going to watch this game.
I mean, and the tickets are going for $61. Jesus Christ. I mean, in Vegas, there's way better options of entertainment for $61.
I mean, what Jacksonville? Jacksonville doesn't even have any fans.
Yes. Give me, I guess, Vegas, but I wouldn't be surprised if the game ties.
I guess I'll go Jacksonville. All right. 49ers at Dolphins.
49ers.
I'm going to go Dolphins. All right. Sunday night. I feel like, see, this is why we need flex scheduling right here. Bucks at Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Like NFL guys, you could have chosen, actually, I don't know. You could have chosen like Eagles at Commanders.
Definitely. Or even, I guess Broncos Chargers are also on the prime time. But yeah, I guess on the Sundays games, I guess definitely there's one better one. But give me Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'll take Bucks as well. And then Monday night, this one's bad. Saints at Packers. Packers by a lot.
Yeah, Packers. I'll bet the over.
Absolutely. So that is week 16. Can't believe we only have 3 games left in this season. Now, speaking of a season that still has a lot left, is the NBA. Although, if you look at NBA social media, you would think that, wow, they just crowned a champion yesterday. Really? They crowned the NBA Cup yesterday with the Milwaukee Bucks defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'll be honest, Gus, it doesn't feel like anyone talked about the NBA Cup. I've heard no discussion about this season.
It's hard because I was having this argument with my brother. Actually, shout out Eduardo Tomazeli, 1 year wedding anniversary. But I was having an argument with him about this because he was saying, "Oh, the ratings haven't dropped so much. Social media of the NBA social media is exploding, but." Does really on the big picture, on the sports discussion of America, the NBA is relevant? It's not, because the lack of player rivalry. Like in the past, we have like the last big player rivalry. It was LeBron and Curry, and even then, it wasn't like a big rivalry like we had Bird and Magic. MJ and Isaiah Thomas. The NBA, I think, is good that they got international players, but unlike the MLB, that the international players bring some sort of a attention and they're beloved where they are. In the NBA, of course they deserve to be on the top of the league, but they don't attract even international crowds. And Ana Silva defend like, oh, we're exploiting on social media, but social media is just a big bubble of people who already love you, but they don't attract the average sports fan who wouldn't care if your league was more attractive.
I mean, the NBA, it's been always weird with the NBA how like there is that cult of people around the NBA who love it and think like, oh, the sports world revolves around the NBA, revolves around its players. But as you said, to the general sports fan, it doesn't at all.
That's why football took over America, and I keep telling a lot of Brazilian, sports fans that like American sports and think, oh, America has basketball and football. Like, no, no, America has football and then everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, basketball is everything else. And creating an end-season tournament, like, people are acting like, oh, this adds to Giannis's legacy, winning this cup. No one cares.
It's like saying that when Manchester United won the FA Cup, it was adding to Cristiano Ronaldo's legacy. No, it's not.
No,
It's
it's
the
like
same.
like when people
Okay,
argue about LeBron, does anyone bring up the NBA Cup last year?
no. It's like when Lionel Messi won the Spanish Cup with Barcelona. It was a nice title, but it didn't change a single drop in his legacy.
Yeah. It means nothing. It's a silly little tournament that I don't think it's boosting
It's a
ratings at
cash
all.
cow. It's a cash cow because where do they go play? Overseas in the Middle East.
Right, even though, not to go down the political route here, but even though they've taken certain political stances and yet they go to other places who have much, much worse human rights violations. So,
It's a cash cow.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is. NBA makes a lot of money, but they're also losing their American audience as well. So, I don't know. I don't know how the NBA fixes that. As I said, the way the NBA truly fixes this is just shorten the season. Shorten the season by a lot. I wouldn't even start it until Christmas Day.
Yeah, I agree because what is the biggest complaint right now from players? Oh, there's too much regular season games. Do we need to do load management? You killed two birds with one stone if you shorten the season. You would have make games more relevant and you would have make your best players play more. If like put one midweek game and one weekend game, that's it. 2 games a week. I think players can sustain that. No
Right.
back to backs.
Yeah, like in college.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
they do. And games mean a lot more in college.
And you don't have low management in college.
Exactly. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. And plus, people would be more willing. Like, if there's a game on every night, why do I need to watch the NBA tonight?
Yeah.
I could just watch it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And going to your next sports topic, I think the MLB is getting to a point that if they keep on this pace, they're gonna surpass NBA of attracting the attention of sports fans because right now the MLB kind of free agency is insane. Like Juan Soto to the Mets, that's definitely like in New York. Nobody's talking about the Knicks, not because they're bad, they're good. All they talk about is Juan Soto leaving the Bronx to the Queens.
Right. But do we think Juan Soto makes the Mets good enough to overcome the Dodgers? Is that enough?
I would have. You need a one pitcher more. I think the problem with the Mets, the depth in the rotation. I think they one more pitcher. They have to go to the market to get one more pitcher, because they in offense, of course. What a season! Finally, Francisco Lindor blossomed into the hitter that we all thought he can be, and he delivered when he played for Cleveland. And Pete Alonso also as well. Like both flourish, but Juan Soto definitely is gonna, put a lot of depth into to the hitting rotation, but to the pitching rotation, I still have some doubts how the Mets can achieve, as you said, beating the Dodgers when you still have those questions about the pitching rotation.
Right. Of course, from Atlanta's perspective, of course, we lost Max Fried to the Dodgers, to the Yankees. So the question is, how do you replace Fried? There's been suggestions that maybe we'll go after Jack Flaherty to replace Fried. And I don't know. That's a lateral move to a downgrade at best, but I don't know how many other choices the Braves have.
Yeah, and I think the unfortunately the World Series window is really, really shutting down real quick. And interesting, I'm just gonna state a fact. Remember last year, Brian his last name,
Sticker.
Brian Sticker. I mean, he was coming off a good season, and he had a breakfast at the Braves spring training facility. I was there. But interesting, this season he did not do that. Maybe is that some sign that his era is coming to an end?
Well, I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, they just had a lot of injuries this year. There's a problem. They still made the playoffs despite all their injuries. I mean, I can't be mad at how the team played last year. It's just when you have the Dodgers and the Yankees are just this loaded, I mean, it's just going to be hard to compete. But in baseball, thankfully, it is such a random game. It's going to be hard for both the Dodgers and the Yankees to both make it back to the World Series. And they're also talking about maybe we could get Ha-Seong Kim, maybe at shortstop. So, that would be an upgrade.
But for the Yankees' perspective, of course, as you said, they got Max Fried, but losing Soto definitely to the city rival definitely is going to take a hint again on Brian Cashman. I think of course they went back to the World Series. That's an accomplishment that they haven't done in 15 years, and they lost to a really, really good Dodgers team. But the patience of Yankee fans with Brian Cashman is really running thin.
Absolutely. I also want to shout out to that. Apparently, the Braves have also signed Connor Capel, who is a minor leaguer who played for the Oakland A's. So it's another Oakland Athletic on the Braves roster because we have several former A's players. Because the A's are just the Braves farm team. But as you mentioned about Cashman, just how pathetic they were in the playoff in the World Series, just absolutely getting destroyed by the Dodgers. Got to win the World Series.
Because the Yankee fans who are not blind knows that the path to the World Series that the Yankees had was way more easy than the Dodgers. Way more. Let's be real. They defeated the AL Central. That was it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, meanwhile, literally the Dodgers are having to go against some of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah, like the New York Mets.
Right. So, and if Philadelphia had beaten them, Philadelphia would have been a much harder challenge than anything New York had.
Yeah.
You could argue the 3 or 4 best teams you could argue the 4 best teams in baseball last year were all NL.
Oh yeah, the Yankees were the number. If the AL and the NL would have been like an 8-team playoff, the Yankees would have been like the 5th or 6th seed.
But you could argue if the Braves were in the AL, the Braves still would have made the ALCS.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Even with the injuries.
I mean, if the Braves were the AL Central, they would have slide through.
Yeah. So, in any case, it's just nuts how imbalanced it is. What teams in the AL could give the Yankees the biggest run for the money? Can the Red Sox come back at all? Can
the Orioles? I mean, I'm expecting more from the Orioles. I mean, they had a really good run last year, and they fell apart in the end. So, I think the Dylan Becker's Baltimore Orioles should be the one who really are expecting to be in a better level.
Absolutely. Huh? That's all for American sports. What's going on down in Brazil this week before Christmas?
I mean, shout out Botafogo. I mean, they were eliminated in the first round of the Intercontinental Cup. Now it's called. They lost the America's Cup against the Concacaf Champions Cup, Pachuca 3-0. But of course, I mean, how can you blame them? They travel from Brazil on Sunday afternoon after playing a do-or-die game to win the Brazilian Championship to play in Doha, Qatar on Wednesday.
Yeah, no team was going to win that.
Yeah, they literally arrive, sleep, and play. No practice, no. Botafogo fans are proud of their team. They are, of course, sad, but they know the conditions were insane. So, and congratulations again to Real Madrid, 9-time world champion, beating Pachuca 3-0 with a really good performance by Mbappe, and the now finally crowned the best soccer player in the world, Vinicius Jr. scored 1 goal from penalty, and also yesterday was crowned by FIFA the best soccer player in the 2024 season. Finally, a well-deserving award.
The Balloon
Not a,
d'Or, right?
no, that's the FIFA one. The Ballon d'Or is the bullshit one made by a falling French soccer magazine. This one is for
Okay.
real. This one is for
Okay.
real. The Ballon d'Or is kind of like how you should treat the Ballon d'Or like we treat the MLB
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame baseball writers that pick those players.
I did not realize they had that reputation.
Yeah, I mean because in years prior, for a while, it was the same award, but they went different sides. Ballon d'Or is now their own prize. Rodri got it, but FIFA have their award in Doha, Qatar yesterday. Vini Jr. well-deserved award. Finally, getting the award he deserved. I think with the organ, and also funny. Now, some saying that Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or was a curse, but since then, Man City has fell apart. I mean, Man City has not won a game in forever. I mean, it's the worst, worst, like the worst kind of like streak for Pep Guardiola. I mean, Man City this year, they are not playing good. So
Heck, Man United beat them the other day, which is nuts.
Yeah. So
I know
they
Liam
are,
Gallagher is somewhere drinking and cussing up a storm.
yeah. So, but again, congratulations, Vinny Jr., well deserving award. And last but not least, Ronaldo, former Real Madrid, AC Milan, Inter Milan, and won the World Cup with Brazil back in 1994 and 2002. He said that he's going to run for the Brazilian Confederation presidency when the election comes next year. He's trying already to get the support from confederation state confederations, teams presidents. But it's going to be a really tough battle because the current president, Edinaldo Rodriguez, has a lot of political support within the CBF. So, but I like it. I think Ronaldo definitely will be a fresh new perspective and have all the soccer experience to bring CBF back into professionalism.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's a very, when you have a big star like that can really get the national team back together. And for Brazil, after the way the past couple of World Cup cycles have gone, that's very, very important, especially now that you have the MVP and Vini Jr. The World Cup's going to be on American soil in 2026. Huge opportunity for Brazil to kind of reestablish themselves.
And I'll say this: if Ronaldo succeeds, does this probably inspire maybe any American soccer players to kind of do the same? Maybe Alexi Lalas, London Donovan, Clint.
It needs to be Alexi Lalas. Alexi Lalas needs to be that guy because he is the one guy that could fix American soccer.
Maybe inspire him to also run the U.S. Soccer Confederation.
Okay, so just score update just in basketball. I just saw it come across the ticker. Number 6, Alabama 69, North Dakota 65.
Oh.
In this, what channel is this game on? I gotta find this. Also, Lady Vols just won as well by 15.
Maybe one of those obscure SEC plus channel.
Let me see. Maybe it is an ESPN Plus because they're playing at it's CBS SN. Hold on, I gotta find it. I'm putting this game on. Yeah, so they're playing at North Dakota. I don't understand why. Apparently, so one of my coworkers, he's an Alabama alum. Apparently, Grant Nelson's from North Dakota, so that's why they're in North Dakota. But
Interesting.
yeah, so they're doing it for their player, or for their star
Oh,
player, which is
oh,
cool. But
man.
they're only up by 5 right now, so that's could be a dangerous.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but that is all the time that we have for episode 160 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. If we don't talk to you before Christmas Day, we wish you all a Merry Christmas. And we also want to say, go Big Orange. Until next time, that's Gus. I'm Nick. Thank you for listening to Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. Go Big Orange.